And thank you, Ebony, for that warm introduction. I am so pleased to introduce this audience to amazing legal minds that are here to share with us today. I have had the pleasure of working with each of our panelists, and I know we are in for a treat this morning. Before I begin with the introductions, I want to put into context the title of our panel today, Rare Air. Living in this region, we see so much Black excellence everywhere. It's one of the reasons why I fell in love with DC, and also one of the reasons why I went to Howard not once, but 2 times. And I know we got some Howard in the house. You know. However, sometimes we can forget that this does not exist everywhere. African American women attorneys make up only approximately 4% of lawyers in this country. Furthermore, according to the American Bar, female women of color comprise just 2% of equity partners in big law firms. Lastly, and very troubling, is that according to the American Bar, up to 70% of women in the legal profession are thinking about leaving the industry. Simply put, representation matters. And it is so important that our future attorneys see a reflection of themselves in our industry. It's no secret that women, especially women of color, face unique challenges in the legal profession. And it is our goal that this panel of Black Girl Magic, shareholders and partners with prominent law firms, share with us their journey and best practices that has allowed them to become successful, in hopes that we can continue to grow our legal profession with the diverse array of legal minds from the next generation. So with that, I am happy to introduce Anitra Andro. Anitra is a shareholder of Polzinelli's Washington, D.C. office and is a seasoned attorney specializing in commercial real estate transactions with a focus on acquisitions, dispositions, financing, development, and leasing across various property types, including office buildings, multifamily developments, and retail centers. Her practice also involves the creation of condominium regimes and the negotiating and settling of warranty claims filed against developers by condominium associations. Anitra also regularly represents clients in the acquisition and financing of affordable housing projects. Anitra, please read. We also have Kirsten Woods. Kirsten is the managing shareholder of Bryant Miller Olive's Washington, D.C. office, specializing in public finance, real estate, affordable housing, new markets tax credits, public-private partnerships, and corporate trust and default. With over 250 transactions totaling nearly $20 billion in revenue, Ms. Woods has extensive experience as lead or second chair counsel to issuers, underwriters, banks, trustees, and conduit borrowers. Her expertise spans various project types, including affordable housing and community development. Everyone, Ms. Kirsten Woods. And last but certainly not least, my soror, Lauren Marcus. Lauren is a partner in the Washington, D.C. office of Tiber Hudson, LLC, where she focuses her practice in the area of public finance for affordable housing transactions. She represents institutional lenders, bond underwriters, developers, and municipal issuers in a wide range of tax-exempt and taxable housing financings around the country, including public offerings of bonds credit enhanced by FHA, USDA, Ginnie Mae, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac. Lauren advises her clients on the structuring and federal income tax aspects of tax-exempt debt transactions. Lauren is frequently a featured speaker at industry conferences and roundtables. Everyone, Ms. Lauren Marcus. Okay, I am now connected. So we're going to jump right into the panel, ladies. We had a very interesting conversation a little while ago where, and first let me say, Lauren is about 3 months into her partner role, so congratulations, yes. Lauren.
Well deserved, well deserved.
And we spoke about a part of your journey begins with an interesting interaction you had with Anitra early on in your career. Yes. And as we're kind of piggybacking from the last panel, can you just share a little bit about that interaction?
Absolutely. And yes, I give all the glory to Anitra. So I graduated from GW Law in 2016 as a B student. And that really is sort of the kiss of death. A B student with no job offer, not the top of my class, and law school costs a pretty penny. So I was like, all right, girl, these loans finna come due. How are we gonna do this? So I focused on studying for the bar, that summer after law school, and then I made my way to the general counsel's office at the DC Housing Authority. And that was an amazing experience, but I knew that I couldn't, be in the public sector, forever. And so right at about month 18, I knew that I was ready to start, networking. And I will never forget getting introduced to Anitra. We have a mutual developer friend. And, I went to Anitra's office downtown, and she must have had a day, because
She came really late. She tells it was 5:30. She got to my office at 8 p.m. No. But I was there, though, so I was going to say that, but go ahead.
Because I had to kind of finesse, right? Like I was going to meet her during my regular work day, so, I couldn't wrap myself out. So get into Anitra's office, and we didn't even go into her personal office. She said, okay, sis, I'm gonna make time for you in the conference room. And perhaps my good sis had, had a day. I could tell that, something, had been heavy on her heart that day. And so she sat me down in that conference room and she was like, okay, well look, tell me what exactly it is that you need. And, being fresh out of law school, I'm still in the mind of like, I have to sit here and pretend to sort of have an informational interview. What is your day like? How can you help me? But she said, no, let's cut to the chase. I have these good 15 minutes. My work day is still going. And please let me know how I can connect you. So I'm going to need you to go ahead and send me your resume. And then I'm going to put it out there. And then we'll circle back in a few weeks. And that wasn't the warmest and fuzziest introduction. But I could appreciate that she wasn't, she wanted me to, we talked about previously respecting each other's times, right? I was still on her clock. She was a very busy partner. And I could just appreciate her sort of, cutting the chase and saying, okay, let's not play around. We don't need to be in a situation where, you're giving me compliments and making me feel good about myself. I'm just ready to pay it forward and help you right away. And a few months later, I landed at Tiber Hudson. And the rest is history.
Yes. Yes. That is such a great example of what we do as women and women of color in this space. And it kind of segues into the next discussion that I wanted to touch on, which is mentorship versus sponsorship. And I know that's something that we kind of discussed where, there's a difference between the two. And can you just kind of describe what that means to you and how that's benefited you in your careers?
Yeah, so I feel that mentorship is, the person, and speaking solely from the legal profession, it's the person or the partner, could have been a senior associate that helps you hone your craft. They tell you how to be a better lawyer. They give you opportunities to work on certain matters so that you get the experience. The sponsor, on the other hand, is the person who is pushing you forward. That is the person who is sitting in the rooms with the practice group leaders or on the board of directors that's advocating on your behalf.
Yes.
Sometimes they're the same, oftentimes they're not. And a mentor can also be just someone who's in the industry. I said on our call, I call it my sister tribe. And they are just all strong Black women, and we feed each other. And we mentor each other because, we may not be in the same industries, but we're, kind of at the top of our game, and, we're alone. And so we do mentor and we feed each other. But the difference is like that sponsor's the one that says, Kirsten's ready. She's ready to become a partner. She's ready to become equity partner, or the one that puts the thumb on the scale for you. And when it's time to get those votes, right? Because, I'm at big law firms where there's thousands of attorneys. And there's all the horse trading. That's the person that gets those votes so that when it's time, when your name comes up, that you get the votes. Because the worst thing in the world that can happen as a Black woman, or I'll just say a Black associate, is for you to be up for partner and not get the votes. Then it's 2 years before you get on the list again. I mean, that's just how it is at Big Law, because people who have, you know, it's true horse trading. You vote for my person, I'll vote for your person. And if your person doesn't make it, like, you've lost all that political capital, and so you basically need that person who's going to do that for you.
Yeah, and I think, you know, a mentor, as Anitra said, you can have multiple mentors. So I think it's important to have mentors in your workplace, but also to have mentors outside of the workplace that you can actually use as sounding boards, because sometimes within your environment at work, you don't necessarily feel comfortable having some of the difficult conversations, or, you know, crying.
There's no crying at work. There's no crying at
Yes, it's like, and sometimes you just have to break down. Like, I remember there were definitely times where, you know, I was sitting in my office at like 11 o'clock at night, and I was, you know, probably overworked and tired and all of that kind of stuff as an associate in particular. And, you know, I had mentors that I was able to call and actually cry.
Yeah.
Because I just needed to get it out before I could continue, you know, getting my, you know, getting to the tasks at hand. I was lucky enough in my career to have multiple mentors at work, to have multiple mentors outside of work, but then also to have a mentor sponsor in my firm. And I would say one of the other things that you're looking to a sponsor for, and this is kind of a blurry line between sponsorship and mentorship, I think, is in terms of not just the straight legal training, and I think this probably applies in other business contexts as well, not just law, but not just the actual technical training, but the opportunity to learn how to do business development, learn how to make relationships, learn how to maintain those relationships. Because, you know, that is part and parcel to actually becoming a partner or becoming a leader in whatever your industry is. You know, it's not just being an expert at the core competencies that are part of your job, but it's also being able to kind of, in law, we would call it sort of doing the business side of things. So managing your practice and maintaining those client relationships. And a lot of that, you know, I learned. I mean, I think some of it kind of comes naturally. It's just part of my personality. But, you know, I am a believer that there are people whose personalities don't necessarily lend itself exactly to doing that naturally, and you can learn how to do it. So, you know, I think that's an important takeaway as well.
That's really good. And just for, you know, some of the people who may be looking at you all and wondering, you know, maybe there's, you know, law students or people interested in the industry, and they're looking at you like, wow, you know, I can do the work, I can learn, but there is a level of commitment and sacrifice that comes with how you've gotten to where you've gotten. And so can you just talk a little bit about that intangible, you know, piece of the commitment and sacrifice that it's going to take to get there?
You want to talk a little bit about it since you're
yeah.
fresh?
Yes, I am very fresh. I mean, for me, I'd say, you know, the commitment is real. Like my law firm is quite unique. You know, we're smaller. We sort of are more boutique. We definitely have a startup culture. I think that I probably have more meals, more phone conversations, more FaceTime and video calls
More missed vacations?
with my colleagues than I do anyone else in my life. I mean, I think sort of the discussion we had before about just sort of walking around with like the weight of the world on your shoulders. I don't know how I got to be the point person for everything at Tiber Hudson, but when I tell you that it could be one day that someone calls me and I say, oh, like I'm in active labor right now, and my colleague may say to me, okay, can I just have 5 minutes? Like that is a real thing, like coming to Lauren, you know, for everything. And so, you know, the commitment is there. Like it is, it's not a situation where, you know, 9 to 5 are the hours where, we're working, and then, after that, do your thing. No, someone might be calling you at 10 o'clock at night, and, I'm going to go ahead and answer my phone.
Yeah.
So I think it really is just sort of accepting that, work and personal life will likely sort of, you're going to blurry that line. It's going to bleed into one another. I'd say as far as sort of being a younger attorney, this industry, it's complicated work that we do. And Typer Hudson is certainly not a firm where, on your first day, there's like this great big instruction manual and you're like, okay, this is how you close a deal. There really is, it has to be osmosis. There has to be a lot of, I think, unfortunately, turning your wheels, trying and failing, older associates looking at you in the face like, oh, wow, did you even read the underlying document that this, and the answer is yes, but, I just didn't get it yet. So, you kind of have to, you kind of have to harden yourself in that way because, when you're doing work for someone else, they're relying on you to at least get it 80% of the way so that they're not having to waste all this time retooling your work product. And it can be hard in the beginning to hear that you're just not good at what you're doing, but,
Yet,
right. But, you have to stay in it. And, beyond that, it's, a lot of missed family time. Your weekends aren't necessarily your own. But, it's important to put in that work because, eventually you get to the point where you put on your out of office and they respect it. And you can have a few days off.
Yes.
Yeah, I think to, piggyback on what Lauren said, is certainly, I think you have to go into the process, if you're going into the process thinking that you do want to move up the ranks. And I think this is probably true, very true in firms, whether they're large or small, but also true, in a corporate environment as well, is going into it, just really understanding that you don't know what you're doing. And in order to get to be the person that knows what they're doing, it's going to take a lot of work. And so, conversations that I've had with various associates over time, and probably a conversation that was had with me at some point in time, is like, it might take you 5 hours to do something that takes me 1 hour to do. And so the reality is that it's just going to take more time to get things done. And I think you have to have an awareness and a commitment of that, because the only way that you get to be proficient and really know how to do what you're doing and do it well is to put the time in up front. And I think sometimes it's hard for younger people to understand that, particularly when they are working with more seasoned attorneys who are may have a more varied schedule, or they're able to leave the office at 6 o'clock and you're still sitting, I'll say it again, at your desk at 11 a.m., at 11 p.m. You are sitting at your desk at 3 a.m. You are back at your desk at 7 a.m. I mean, this is just
Oh my goodness.
part of the
journey.
Of the journey, because what has to be done in the time period that it needs to be done in. And if it takes you 5 hours to do it, then, and that means that you have to be in the office until 3 a.m., then you have to be. So if you're going to embark on this journey, I think there needs to be an open-mindedness to the realities of that, and that this is what you're committing to. Also there needs to be an understanding and a trust relationship between your sponsor, your supervisor, your mentor, that what they're having you do is not just to be a terrible person who's not very nice, but they're doing it because it's part and parcel to your training and ability to become good at what you do. I remember when I first started practicing, I would get on working group calls, which is where all the different team members from the transaction are on there talking about what's happening. And I'm scribbling words and terms feverishly, because I'm I do not know what this means,
Yeah.
And so it's listening to another language.
Yeah,
it really
sure.
is
All the
learning,
acronyms.
and you feel so far removed from the partners that you work with and the other people who are on the transaction that know exactly what's going on, and they're speaking this language, and you're like, I'm never going to be able to be that person. It just seems so far-fetched.
I'm so glad it wasn't just me. Hearing you say that, I feel so much better.
It really is, So I think keeping all of that in mind and going into it open-minded and understanding that there are going to be sacrifices personally that you need to take. I think the last thing that I would say to kind of tie that up, though, is that at some point you do get to the point, as Lauren, I think, sort of shed a little bit of light on at the end of what she was saying, is that there does come a point where you have to set boundaries. Because to the point of the prior conversation, you can't function on an empty cup. So if you're doing this type of thing over and over again for 6 years, 8 years, 9 years, where you're just working, you're skipping vacations, you're not doing things with friends, that's a sacrifice. But you can't do that for 30 years.
Right, right.
So, you get to the point where hopefully you are proficient enough to get things done, you have close relationships with clients, you're able to deliver good and solid service during generally normal working hours.
Yes.
And you're able to put your out of office message on, as you said.
Yes, and that kind of dovetails into my next question, which I'll just say, I've hung out with you ladies, at various different events, happy hours, and y'all are fun. Y'all don't give, super, partner serious, only talk
fun,
about
we try.
legal documents. How do you do that? Like, how do you do everything that you're doing and stay grounded and true to who you are individually? How do you stay grounded and still are able to be yourself and have fun, but still get the work done and still continue to move up the ladder?
Well, I will say, as Black women, we're very good at code shifting.
I was going to say that, yeah.
So yes, when I go back at 14th and I will give corporate America a voice. But the minute I walk out that door,
Yes.
I get to be me.
Yes.
And so we relish the moments when we can be ourselves.
Yes.
I do, admittedly, I'm an equity partner, so it's practically impossible for me to get fired, right? So now, and I told them, y'all made the biggest mistake ever. So 80% of you have to vote me out, and you can't get 80% of us to focus for 2 minutes. It's never gonna happen. So now I say, now the real Anisha can come out, right?
Yes.
Because you work till you get to that point, and then you can just be yourself. Not a whole donkey, but you can just, say what you want, right? Mm-hmm. Because you've worked to get to a point where you can say, okay, well, you can, say, there's just not enough Black people in this room. I'm just going to say it like that, at the meeting. And they're like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's me and 2 other people.
Yep.
Something's wrong with this room,
Yes.
right? And so that's part of the struggle of why you ascend, so that then you can have those conversations and you can say them just as frankly as that.
Yes.
I would say wait until you're like almost fireproof. Before you do it. I would have never acted like that or said that when I was just a partner.
Right.
But that's the whole point. We never want to ascend and be the only person in the room.
Yeah.
Yes.
If that is the case, something is wrong. And if we're not actively trying to change the fact that we're the only one in the room, then I would challenge everyone. I would say I would say your meter's a little off, because you should never be okay with saying I'm the only one. And so we do have all that stress that we carry. So when we leave, we like to just be ourselves, because yes, we're very smart, but we're still fun people. We still, like to have a good time.
Yep.
And so that's just all of who we are as a person.
Yeah.
And we do not like to read contracts in our free time.
No. Yeah.
Yes.
So I love our public service announcement, because it's like to all of our family that thinks that we're general practitioners.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
I do not have the answers.
When I do I'm like, so Bob, I've been doing real estate for 23 years. So I don't know anything about labor and employment. So if my cousin got fired, he probably deserved it. I don't know why.
Right.
I don't know why you're calling me about that. I don't know.
I don't. I will never understand that.
It's like, wait, what? I don't know.
Well, I think another important thing to this point, though, of authenticity.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Is just that I think we are getting to a point. We have made progress, I'll say. So, right? So I've been doing this for 20, I don't know however many years, and I don't even want to say. But I remember when I first started practicing I was at another firm for like 3 years, and I did some litigation, and they were like, you cannot wear pants to court. Like that's where, this was like 2003, 2004.
Wow.
They're like, if you're a woman, you cannot wear pants to court. And the main point was just that you didn't know who the judge was going to be. You didn't know how they were going to perceive you if you were a woman, you know, coming into court with a pantsuit on. So you had to wear a skirt of some sort to court. Fast forward a few years, I wore green nail polish to work. And that was commented on.
Wow.
Subsequently, Michelle Obama came into office and wore blue and green nail polish all the time, and it became acceptable, right? And then further to that, once I became partner and I could do what I wanted to do, and I was, you know, like you said, unfireable, fireproof, I started wearing my natural hair. And my professional photo, as you may have seen on some of the publicity for this event, I have a completely natural afro. And I always wear my hair natural. And nobody can really say anything about it. I don't know if you noticed, my glasses are kind of dramatic. I've been wearing dramatic glasses for about maybe 12, 15 years. And I had a pair of glasses one time, and they were pretty new, and I went to a work event. And people kept saying, are those your real glasses or are they fashion glasses? I'm like, these are my real glasses. I'm wearing them every day. I know they're kind of dramatic. And this was like before, you know, wearing this type of glasses was, again, like pretty common. And so you do get to a point in your career where you're able to kind of be your more authentic self in the professional environment. But you also get to a point in your career where you don't have to take every client.
Yes.
That is an important point. It's only at a point in your career, though, right? So early in your career, you don't have any say over who your clients are. Probably early in your partnership, you don't necessarily have say of who your clients are. But you know what? I don't like to work with people who I don't enjoy working with.
Yes.
Because it stresses me out. It doesn't allow me to set boundaries. I'm not working with people who actually respect me as a person. That's not what I want to do. So I do say I don't want to work with you. And to that point, that allows me to spend time with you outside of work and be my authentic self, because I don't feel like I'm working with people who, you know, don't see me as a person or respect who I am outside of being on a working group call or working with them. And we can, as Anitra said, code switch in that way, right? So we can be on working group calls all together.
We are. We're so professional.
And we're very professional.
I do have one point about the fireproofness, though. So I think so that came very early for me, perhaps uncharacteristically early. And I'll never forget, this was, I think, November of 2021. And obviously all of us up on stage, we were working like crazy. Interest rates were so low, and everyone wanted to close. There were no boundaries. The laptop opened at 7 a.m. and it closed at 12 a.m. And we were just on that for months and months. And so I got a little burned out, and I had to take, you know, just a couple personal days. But you know, when I finally came back, and I was, you know, talking to my boss, who is a very woke Caucasian male, but still a Caucasian male nonetheless. I had to have a very frank conversation with him about how I felt my time was best served, because it was a lot for me to sort of have to show up one way with, you know, my amazing, you know, investment banking clients. I have one client, they're headquartered down in Montgomery, Alabama. So you can imagine sometimes the things that may slip out, you know, at a big dinner while we're drinking. And you know, you just have to sort of smile and nod, and you're like, wow, like this man really just held his arm up to mine to say, haha, I'm darker than you, Lauren, but it's for real. And you're like, wow, this is really where we are. But I had to say to him, you know, quite frankly, I think that my time is better served with me being intentional about building business with BIPOC developers, BIPOC bankers. Like, if I am a part of the succession plan, which she made very clear to me I was my second year into Tiber Hudson, I said my life 20 years from now can't be just that we're exclusively servicing, you know, these clients who tell me again and again, oh, it's just so hard to find, you know, talented people of color. And I had to say that because it wasn't serving me. I was feeling depleted, having to show up, sort of, you know, be a different version of myself, and then also deal with, you know, the comments and the jokes and what have you, and act like that wasn't insulting to me. So, you know, for the younger attorneys in the audience, you know, if you feel comfortable, if you feel like the person you're working with is a sponsor, because I do feel like the partner I report to is a sponsor, you know, have that conversation.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah.
That's really good. I'm getting the look. And so I just want to wrap this up. Anitra, you said something on our call that just really stuck with me, and it reminded me of the phrase that the late, great, Honorable John Lewis coined, good trouble, but you put the Anitra spin on it and you called it like good bullying.
Yes.
And so I just want a good bully. And so I just wanted the last, couple of minutes for each of you to kind of tell the audience, because you're at a point in your careers where you have the opportunity to be the good bully. And just describe for them like what that means to you and how you do that in your careers.
So I think that it does come down to being vocal about your authenticity, so that the people that you work with who are not minorities understand and respect that, and that you're able to bring a voice to the table that wouldn't necessarily be at a table. And it could be an adversarial voice. It might not be what they want to hear, but you have to say it. I think it also shows up in trying your best to provide opportunities to people who look like you, because if you have that influence, then to try to do that, because there are a lot of opportunities in the world, but there aren't a lot of opportunities in the world for people who look like us by people who look like us.
Right.
And I will say that, like, for me, that was such a big part of, and I don't know how it happened, but like all of my mentors, well, all of my sponsors in my career have been African American. I don't know how that happened. I've been very, very, it is like,
yeah,
an anomaly, right? But I've been very, very lucky. So for me, it's definitely important to pay it forward, because, that has been completely influential in my career.
Yes.
And I, would like to be able to do the same thing again. I would say I have tried a few different times.
Yeah.
I'm in a very small office. It has to be a really particular relationship for it to work out well. And sometimes that is difficult to find, not because the person is of color, but just because you're working so intimately together.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to bring that influence to the table in every context that I have an opportunity to do it within my firm and outside of my firm.
That's great.
Yeah, so for me, it's, I'm just abrasive. Intentionally abrasive, because I sit in a department that's full of white men. And so my mere existence annoys them. And so I'm like, if I'm being here annoys you, then I'm going to give you a reason to be annoyed by me, right? So I'm going to say, well, and we're broken into teams. And when I was chair of the real estate department, I was like, your whole team looks just like you. Why is that? You're sitting in Atlanta. I said, there's full of
talent.
I would just go down every office, LA. I was like, no black people. I would just say, so something is wrong with you all. And, every now and then, I said, because I don't want to call it, unconscious bias. And I was like, no, you're intentionally hiring somebody who looks just like you. And that's intentional, because you're not even looking to hire. I was like, a woman or a person of color. I was like, I think that an unconscious bias is a way for people to feel less called out for being racist. That's just my honest opinion. And so I would just call it out. I was like, there's a problem here. It needs to be addressed. You should have never made me the co-chair of the real estate department if you didn't want me to call you out. You knew I was the only one here. So there was a reason why you put me here, or management put me here. And so if I'm going to chair this group, it has to change. It has to look different. Otherwise, I'm not going to continue to do it, because that's why I'm here. And so, folks got hired.
Hot under the collar.
It's a process, but tides are changing, right? And if you're not there to do that, then I think you're just taking up space. Why are you there?
Yes.
All right, I'll finish this off. So
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
say my experience is somewhat unique because my law firm is an MBE.
Yes.
So that, I 1000% feel at home there. But obviously the industry that we work
Yeah.
in is predominantly white.
Yes.
And so I think for me at this point in my career, good bullying, really it's me sort of working on honing my confidence so that I really can go toe to toe
Yeah.
with, people who have been doing this for longer than I have been alive. And so, we're on these groups, these email threads of 70, 100 people. Well, you know what? Don't come for me unless I call for you. So if you want to sort of hash this out on a thread of 100 people, well, okay, I'm going to
Yep.
give it to you. I'm going to make sure I'm accurate, concise,
Yes.
and then you're not going to have anything left to say to me. And now someone who's been practicing for 6 years, or 8 years rather, has schooled you in front of
Mic
your client. So I think for me, it's really about me having, again, those mic dropping moments. Of course, being a Black woman, I feel like I have to work, twice as hard for half the recognition.
Yep.
But I care so much about, just being accurate, being forthright, sort of being an amazing advocate for my clients. These, again, I represent like exclusively white men, and they know if they're going to put me toe to toe with someone else who's a partner, whatever large firm, like we're going to get what you want out of the deal. Like don't try me.
Yes.
So that's my version of good bullying right now.
And she knows if I'm on the email, I'm ready to pounce.
Yeah. Texting me like,
I'm like, do you tag me in? 'Cause I'm
Yes.
ready. Yeah. So you'll need me. Okay, fine. That's fine.
I love it.
I'll sit back and wait.
I'm like, calm down,
I
calm down.
love it. I love it. I love it.
I'll be sitting in my desk drinking coffee. I'll be like, go, Lord. And I'm just waiting for, okay, fine.
Yeah,
I
and then
love
you have
it.
your mentors on the thread cheering you on, too,
Yes.
texting you like, yeah, girl, you better. Like, we didn't see
Yes.
anything. No reply after
And all of that is important.
Like, yeah.
All of that is important because then you
No
do get to the
reply.
point where nobody messes with you because they know,
No
you know?
reply.
Yes, yes, I love it. Well, I've gotten the official look.
Okay.
I'm so honored to have shared this space with you and this panel, and I hope everyone was able to glean something from this. Even if you're not a lawyer, I hope it was helpful.